Microsoft and Bethesda dropped a surprise game last week on the 25th called Hi-Fi Rush, and we played it. And I'm going to let you know what I think about it here. My name is LittleBobby with 59 Gaming Direct. Normally, I script out my reviews. You've probably seen some of them if you watch this channel. Talon has complained about them on Twitter, how long they can be. I am not doing that today, frankly put, because I do not want to waste any more of my time on Hi-Fi Rush than I already have. Hi-Fi Rush to me has been nothing but a miserable experience. I did not enjoy anything about this game aside from the visuals. The visuals are very impressive. It looks very nice. It's very flashy. Outside of that, the gameplay is stale and boring. The platforming and exploration is horrible. I want to talk about the platforming specifically because the platforming feels like it was done in 1996. I think that the original Crash Bandicoot games had better jump physics than Hi-Fi Rush does. I absolutely dreaded every single time I saw a platforming section just because it felt so terrible to do platforming in this game. Now, in terms of the combat in this game seemed like it was going to be really interesting, and I was so interested when I saw this. I was like, oh my goodness, that looks very cool. The problem is that it got so boring for me so quickly because it's a hack and slash game that forces you to take a certain amount of time in every single encounter. And what do I mean about that? Well, every time you hit the attack button, it's supposed to be, on the beat, and that gives you extra damage. But it's always on the beat. There's nothing outside of the beat. Sometimes you have to wait 2 beats if you do a heavy attack or whatever. But outside of that, it's just hitting on the beat. And when you hit on the beat, and that's all it is, just quarter note beats, that to me is so boring. If you guys don't know this about me, I'm a music teacher. I've been a guitar player for almost 25 years. I've played piano for like 18, 19 years. I learned a whole bunch of instruments in college, and I was really hyped, like, oh man, a rhythm game where it's like action. Maybe you can combine like different rhythms, triplets and 16 notes and whatever in your attacks, and that gives you different types of stuff. Nope, it's just 2 different types of attacks, and you have to do them on a quarter note pulse. That to me is like the most shameful waste of potential here, because this could have been such a cool system to really let the player kind of free flow within the rhythm and create their own rhythms and create like cool combos based on the rhythms that they come up with. But instead they copped out and made it just so that it's on the beat. And then the only time it really diverges from the beat is when you have to like parry, and then it sets you up, and then it becomes like a rhythm clapping exercise, right? A copycat exercise. In fact, it's literally an exercise I do with a lot of my music students who are like 8 years old. And it's just so dull. I ended up just tuning out. I didn't care about anything with the rhythm or any of that. Another big part of this game is, yes, you have to do it on quarter notes. And if you don't know what a quarter note is, right? If you're not a musical person, a quarter note is just like the beat of a song, right? When you hear that, that's what you're doing the entire time. And that does not change. And I get why it doesn't change. It makes sense why it doesn't change, because you cannot ask a casual gamer to keep altering how fast and slow they go depending on the song. But what this leads to is a game full of songs at the exact same tempo that do not change too much, because if they change too much, they're going to get distracting, and that's going to pull the player out of being able to keep on the beat because they're a casual player. This game is clearly made for casual players, non-musicians, and that's okay. I get that's what you want. You want to appeal to the most people possible, but it's also a waste because they could have let people who are musically trained or musically inclined really explore how far they could go with this game, and they didn't do that. It's just sad, and it just left me with a foul impression of this game right off the bat. I dreaded every second of this game. It took me a week to play through this 8-hour game because I just did not want to play it because it is one of the most boring things I've ever played. And I just don't know how to put it other than that. Another thing about this game is that the story is okay, but a lot of people had an issue with Forspoken, right? And I've heard the argument, oh, well, it's realistic graphics, it's meant to take itself seriously, and so like it's okay in Hi-Fi Rush because Hi-Fi Rush is like it's cartoony, it's silly, it's supposed to be stupid. And it's like, well, okay, if Forspoken is having that same kind of thing, obviously it's supposed to be kind of silly too, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't played Forspoken. I've heard not great things about it. Lethal, apparently, he did enjoy it quite a bit, at least what he told us. He said near the end, it got really, really engaging and really fun. And that's one of those things. But for Hi-Fi Rush, a lot of what makes it engaging is that it's flashy. That's what makes it engaging for the average player. And I've seen some people who are calling for this to be like a Game of the Year nominee.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I am dumbfounded how anyone could call this a Game of the Year nominee. This game doesn't ever take itself seriously, even in moments where you think, oh, hey, they can take themselves a little seriously right now because the stakes are being amped up. They never do. There's not one point where you feel like there's danger or anything like that within the story. There's moments where like what should be like serious stuff happens and then they make a joke at it like immediately. All of it just, it's too much, like it's that Marvel writing, right? People complain about Forspoken and the Marvel writing. This is that exact same Marvel writing, except it literally does not stop. It does not stop at all. Okay, so another part of the presentation with this game is that they really are trying to interject a lot of the characters, but the characters are like boring, right? I don't care about any of these characters. There's like Macaron, right? He's supposed to be the big kind of physically intimidating guy who's actually really pleasant and nice, and he builds a robot who talks to you and is always brutally honest, so he's just a dick. And then there's Peppermint, and she's just a dick. And then there's Corsica, who is originally a bad guy and then becomes a good guy. And I just, at no point do I find myself caring about any one of these characters, any one of the stories. They almost did something interesting in the game with, this is a spoiler alert, at the end of the story or near the end of the story, you end up hearing the entire time, you find out that Peppermint A is the sister of the bad guy and the daughter of like this mythical legendary scientist that they keep talking about throughout the whole game. And near the end of the story, it shows that the scientist who's Peppermint's mother is alive, and she looks like she's a bad guy. She's like, oh, actually, I know all about this evil mind control program that the bad guys are making. Ha ha ha, I know all about it, so don't worry, daughter. And I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. And no, what happens is she's just being mind controlled. So like there was one interesting turn they could have made with the plot here, in that Roxanne could have actually been like the evil person who decided, you know what? I feel like I did my good. I feel like I deserve more from the world. You know, and it could have been like an interesting like shift at looking at this person who's supposed to be the really good person. And oh, you know, it's stated by Peppermint earlier, oh, Kale, her brother, who's like the bad guy, pushed the mom out of the company, pushed Roxanne out of the company and took over. And that's why it could have been revealed actually she kind of faked that and ended up, you know, being evil herself, but didn't want anybody to know. And they copped out on that, in that she's being mind controlled by the same thing. And she's actually good. She's a good person. That one interesting idea that they had was thrown away. And again, thrown away through jokes. Hi-Fi Rush, people saying this is Game of the Year. No. I don't know what game you guys played. Ironically, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about in this game that were so funny to me, because this game is like almost self-aware. There is a part where you're fighting, it's like the second or third boss. I'll see if I can let the editor know exactly what it was. But he talks and he says, the masses only care about Flash. And that's what this is. This game is all just flash. There's no substance to it. The combat system is bad. The platforming is bad. The exploration is generic. It's like something out of maybe early PS2. The level design is not great. We expect better things, or at least I expect better things out of a game coming out in 2023. But yeah, people just want flash. That's all they want. And that's what this game is. It's really good about being flashy and trying to be quick and witty and funny, and it's not. But people seem to have dialed into this, I guess. It's kind of that lowest common denominator thing. And I'm not trying to offend you if you enjoyed this game. Like, you're welcome to enjoy what you want. But this is clearly made to just cast the widest net and entice the most people, right? You don't even have to be very, like, on top of the rhythm when you're playing, right? There were times where I like literally saw like, how early can I press this, or how late can I press this, and how late will it let me get away with this? You don't have to keep a very strong rhythm. Half the footage here, I'm literally just spamming my X button because I'm seeing, oh, will it just still count and line up? And there's sometimes where it does, and there's sometimes where it doesn't. And it's like, if you just spam, you have like a 50% chance of getting like 75, 80%, or even higher on the rhythm. And so they don't punish you for missing or anything, aside from maybe you do a little bit less damage. But yeah, that's not good game design. In principle, if you're telling me I have to keep a rhythm and then you really just don't care, you're just trying to make it seem like you're doing something, that's weak to me. That's a cop-out. Another moment that I thought was really like hilariously non-self-aware was when Kale says the line, "Do you know how hard it is to make something that people want to buy?" Because I feel like that is absolutely Microsoft's issue right now. I get it that people love this game, or they say they love it, but this game has been out a week. I finished it in 8 hours, like looking around for everything, taking my time between levels and stuff like that. I finished it in 8 hours, and apparently it has like a 4% completion rate in a week, right? So people can say what they want. A lot of people are clearly not finishing this game. I'm sure that'll go up, but this is not a game that takes very long to finish, especially if you like it. Like, if you enjoy a game like this, you're going to go right through it, right? But the problem, again, to me is that, like, they seemed like they were doing something interesting, and then it just fell so flat, right? Another huge issue in this game is that every single level is like an hour long. It is like an hour long, every single level. It'll be like a hour long level and then a 10-15 minute boss fight. And I'm going to have our editor, whoever edits this, just put in footage of the final boss fight. That was like a total ripoff of Spider-Man. You're on the top of like a tower in a lightning storm, and the bad guy grows like Dr. Octopus tentacles. Like, come on. But, you know, the thing with it is that every single fight after a certain point ends up with you just like sitting around waiting. Enemies will have shields, or you'll have to do some kind of interaction, and most of the time it is shield, right? If you hit them, they're either not going to take damage or they're going to hurt you, and you just have to use your partners and wait, right? And a lot of the times it'll be like 2 or 3 people, and you'll have to use a partner 2 or 3 times each. Sometimes if you miss with Macaron, right, his attack, that's it. Now you're going to be sitting and waiting for his attack to recharge so that you can hopefully hit the next attack and get the shield down so you can actually start fighting the enemy instead of just dodging and jumping around waiting for an attack to come up from your partner. This is just really, really feels bad. I couldn't get over it. Now, like, I know a lot of the times we talk on this channel about like how we do prefer Sony, right? But Xbox has done some really great things in the last few years. Scorn, I thought Scorn was really great. I didn't like the combat, and I said very clearly, Scorn, had they left it a puzzle game, that would have been one of my favorite games I ever played, right? I still thought it was great. I would still probably give Scorn like an 8 out of 10. You know, the only miss there was the combat. The look was great. You know, the fact that it was so like ambiguous with the story and everything, there wasn't a clear story. You're kind of left it up, or you're kind of left to interpret it how you will, interpret the events of everything and try and break down everything through world building. I thought that was great. But honestly, with Hi-Fi Rush, I feel like they really went for style over substance, and it was just so bland and boring. Everything about it was predictable. The one twist in the plot where I actually thought they might make things interesting turned out to fall through. The combat is slow. For a hack and slash, it's just bad. For a rhythm game, it's just bad. The platforming is terrible. The exploration is extremely mediocre. It's not terrible, but it's extremely mediocre. I remember games 25 years ago had more like secret pathways and stuff than this. So overall, Hi-Fi Rush to me, I don't understand how it has the review scores it does. I just think it's incredibly dull. And it doesn't do anything interesting with any of the ideas it presents. It never takes itself seriously, which people are saying that's what makes it great. You could tell it doesn't take itself seriously. Well, it's like sometimes you present moments in the story that could be taken seriously, and they don't do that. Tango is also great, and I just hate to say this. It's like, you know, it's just having to say that a company that's made some stuff that I generally like made something that I hated. And again, this is coming from someone who's a musician. Once I realized that there was not going to be anything interesting with the rhythm, I just stopped caring. I tuned out completely because there's nothing for me there. No interesting ideas. Like if you want a rhythm game, you need to do something with the rhythm, not just, oh yeah, hit the buttons on the beat, because that's boring. Long story short, we may get demonetized for this, but I'm going to say fuck this game. Yeah, just fuck this game. Like, I could not stand it. By the time I finished, I was literally like, am I done? I was audibly in my play space. I was going, am I done with this yet? Because I just didn't want to play it. I honestly almost said, I'm not going to review this because I just can't stand it. But, you know, if you like Hi-Fi Rush, great. You know, enjoy it. You know, people like all sorts of things. People like the Fast and the Furious movies too, right? It's one of those things that has mass appeal, I guess. It's just not for me. But yeah, if you made it to the end, leave a like, or you could leave a dislike and tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. And you could say whatever you want. I'm not changing my opinion on this game. When the thing came up, it was like, go ahead and do the missions again. You can select any mission you want at the end. I was like, fuck no, because I'm not doing an hour-long mission again. I just can't sit through this anymore. I immediately uninstalled it the second I finished the base campaign. I will not ever touch this game again. But yeah, LittleBobby here, 59 Gaming Direct. Thanks again. Leave a like if you like this. Leave a dislike if you dislike this. Let us know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you soon.